Welcome to the Send More Offers Real Estate Show with Brandon Barnes, showing you how to do wholesaling deals consistently without having to go on seller appointments. Learn the key tips and strategies that Brandon's students use to find deeply discounted properties that are pennies on the dollar, all while avoiding wear and tear on their vehicle, body, and freedom. Whether you're looking for your first deal or your next deal, it's time to send more offers with your host, Brandon Barnes.
Hey, Matt, welcome to the show. How the heck are you?
I'm fantastic, Brandon. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm super excited to have this conversation because you've been contributing to bigger pockets, raising capital, doing deals. You can speak to folks that, are getting their start. There's flipping single family or multifamily. So we got a lot to cover. Let's just start with your superpower. I know that's the Captain America on your mic and the shield in the background. What is your real estate superpower?
Well, I'm going to comment to that real quick. First of all, I love Captain America. We can get into why I love Captain America towards the end there if you want. But he is by far I love all superheroes, and he's by far my favorite superhero. So, shameless plug for my birthday. If people want to send me a present, love Captain America. Anyway, so I believe that everybody has a certain strength, like a unique ability, whatever you want to call it, that can be applied towards real estate investing. And that should be consolation to anyone that's out there listening to this show that doesn't like underwriting, that doesn't like, like living in an Excel spreadsheet, or isn't very good at browbeating contractors into submission or, directly collecting rent, those kinds of things. Everybody's got a skill, and I believe that skill somewhere or another could be applied to real estate. For me, my skill, and I've been able to flourish my business quite a bit by just living in that lane and giving away everything else that's not what I'm good at. My skill is raising money and getting attention to my company and just getting eyeballs and then converting those eyeballs into dollars by explaining complex things like apartment building investments and complex investment strategies, explaining them to investors that did not drink the Rich Dad Poor Dad Kool-Aid like you and I did, and they just want to get by and make a living and invest for their future. I could explain to them how what we do makes sense to them to get involved in. So short answer question is raising money and getting eyeballs is my superpower.
Love it. Love it. And so how does that start? Because, when you get into this business, right, folks can get in from a number of different avenues. But let's say for the person that, hey, they just learned about real estate investing, and they maybe got their start wholesaling, specifically finding off-market deals and selling them to buyers. Where does private capital raising come in for that person?
Yeah. So you know what, Brandon, just like my wife and I did not I quit my day job in 2005, right? And so when I did that, I did not just graduate into okay, I'll just go start buying apartment buildings and I'm going to raise millions of dollars from my network to go buy those apartment buildings. Just like a lot of people, I started small. I started with my own money, and immediate family got in with me as investors or as private lenders or whatever. But for a long period of time, that was it. We got into raising capital just like a lot of things in life, we kind of stumbled into it, right? I did not go take a course at some point in the future about how to raise money. Okay, I'll apply that and I'll use that to scale my business. It was just my wife was talking to somebody she went to college with about what we were up to. And he was like, that sure sounds like a lot, really interesting, but I want to do that too. I just don't have the time, And we were like, ding, those are the magic words, So we have time. We have lots of time. You have money. We have time. So we went up and struck a deal with him, and he was just put in $50K into our next deal where he put up the money. We found the deal, and that arrangement worked. And so we slowly scaled it. And it really took off when I had the courage to let go of some of the stuff that I wasn't good at. That's when things really blew out, is when I focused on my greatness, which I discovered was structuring and raising and structuring money deals.
And just for the listeners' sake, what were some of the things that you end up letting go as part of this journey?
At first, it's just the direct property management, the direct management of tenants. I used to show apartments, collect rent, and deal with maintenance issues. All my maintenance issues, all my tenants have my cell phone number, those kinds of things. So I used to do all that. Then I hired staff to help me. Once I had enough units, I hired staff to help me with those things. And then eventually I gave away the property management business altogether because running that business is effort as well. And, we got up to 115 units. It was good. It was a good business for a while, but then I outgrew that too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And so we're talking, some major cash flow, and, this all had to start somewhere. So just to backtrack a little bit,
Sure.
what were those initial deals? Like, what kind of got you going into real estate? What were you investing in initially?
And this is something like a lot of your listeners, and I get it. It's big, it's sexy, it's fun to talk about, hey, I just bought this 150 unit apartment building. Yeah, you did, but you're going to go and have 35 different people offering bids that are all going to bid up the price of that apartment building, and you're going to be the biggest idiot at this point in the market cycle, right? So you can, and there are really great deals out there on the 150 unit space, but I'll tell you, you're not going to get outbid by 35 people buying a 10 unit or buying a 5 unit or whatever. So my submission to your audience base, put your ego up on the shelf for a minute and if you're trying to scale into multifamily, put your ego up on the shelf and do smaller deals. Do 5, 10, 20 unit projects, and you'll be below the radar of most of the big dogs that are going to come and try and scoop that deal away from you. We scaled to that unit count of 115 by doing onesie twosies, man. But onesie twosies add up to 10s and 20s pretty quick, right? So we were doing a bunch of 4 units, just what you call small multis. My biggest unit in that entire count was an 18 unit apartment building.
Wow.
Right. And all those properties all contributed a property management fee because I got to pay somebody, pay myself, pay third party. So I developed another business, another company that took that PM fee, and I was able to hire staff and pay myself a salary. I was able to do that. Just about any of your listeners could scale something like that out. If they're managing all their own stuff, they don't even need a broker's license. If they're managing other people's stuff, they do, but start by managing your own deals and, you can scale from there. And I bought those onesie twosies with private capital, with other people's money, like $50K from Joe Smith that I went to college with $100K from, my rich Uncle Charlie, those kinds of things.
Yeah. And before even getting kind of into those, small multifamily, were you buying single family? Were you ever marketing directly, or were you working through agents like out the gate? Were you already kind of looking what was on the market, or did you do some direct to seller marketing?
I tried the direct to seller thing. I wasn't diligent enough, and I never really built. I think direct to seller, if you're going to do direct to seller marketing, and I had a lot of friends that did it, that were like hardcore wholesalers, and they would buy a deal, wholesale a deal, then buy a deal, then wholesale 3 deals, right? So if you're going to build that kind of machine, that makes sense. I never built that. I tried to, but you got to focus at some point in life, right? So I ended up not scaling into that. I ended up buying a lot of the down leg product from those guys. I was friends with 3 or 4 of them. Like we would, go have beers on the weekends and stuff like that. And I would be their buyer, their end buyer.
There you go.
Or if I came across a deal that was totally tangled up, like big red hot mess that needed to get untangled with like a short sale or whatever, I'd either call them up for advice or I'd give them a referral. And I'd partner with them every once and again when I would get direct. This happens, Brandon. Like you buy 123 Main Street, the owner of 124 Main Street finds out what you paid for 123, and you're like, hey man, you want to buy my property too? And so that would happen. So I would end up buying around the same block of properties, especially because we were very regionally focused. We scaled up in Trenton, New Jersey, with our playground is one of them still,
Nice. That's great because, for the person that's listening, that's like, hey, I'm just not going to try to build this wholesale machine and all this direct to seller market.
You have to do that.
There's still ways, right, to scale up.
From brokers, like probably 50% brokers, 40% wholesalers, 10% direct to seller. And 9 times out of 10, when those direct sellers would come to me, I'd get my wholesaler buddy to come help me figure it out.
Right. Get in the middle of this. So, and those verse deals, right, before you really started to scale kind of the private money and raising the private money, I'm sure you had to have some successful deals to show and to talk about when you were just learning before kind of the private money came into play. Like, what were some of the things that helped you be successful with those initial flips, with those initial buy and hold properties?
So the first couple deals that we did, were successful because I was full-time, right? Yeah. Not everybody can go full-time. I get it. My wife and I did this wacky thing called living below your means. It's crazy, but you don't have to spend all the money you make every month, right? And so we didn't. And so we lived off of her salary. And, she had a good enough job that enabled us to live in a little bit smaller house than we would have liked. And in maybe not the best neighborhood in the entire world, but we lived well. and we did well. And we always spent less than what she earned so I could build our business, right? That probably was the biggest attractor. Like, okay, the fact that I was full-time, the fact that we were focused on specific markets. So it made sense to investors. I wasn't just like scattered across the United States doing 2 deals in Tallahassee and then another one in Kalamazoo, right?
Right.
So we were regionally focused and I was full-time. That allowed me to get to know the market really well. And that in itself was attractive to investors, along with having a little bit of a ticker tape of track record, but not the hundreds of units. I mean, when we raised that first $50K from the guy she went to college with, we owned 30 units at the time. And one of those was an office building that accounted for 15 of that. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's nice. And I'm assuming, and I was about to say that you probably had a buy box as well of something, certain deals that you were, really focused on, based on the rent or the location, the class, like how nice the property was.
Yeah.
But to have a commercial building mixed in there, I mean, I'm assuming that you were also just looking for good
deals. A big albatross there, brother. That I forbid anybody listening to this podcast to go out there and buy an office building. Don't. Unless you got a really good business plan, don't do it.
Talk about that. Explain a little bit more how that came into being and why.
In our track record, and by the way, the way that we got to 30 units, people are like, oh, well, I don't have 30 units and I can't raise money. Yeah, but we scaled up. We'd flip a property, put some of the money from the flip into the next deal, and you'd scrap and claw your way up, and you do some low to no money down stuff and seller finance and then a refinance after you'd done the work. Borrowed a few dollars from like immediate friends and family, like we would just borrow. And this sounds like a little bomb, but I did 0% interest credit cards, and you gotta be very careful. That is a weapon of mass destruction. That 0 turns to 18, but I did some 0% interest credit card loans to scale, right? Anyway, I'm just talking so much, Brandon. I forget.
No, that was great. Because I was wondering,
office building.
Those first few deals, yeah.
Yes. Sorry. I'll tell you real quick, office building. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So we did resi deal, right? And chasing the shiny nickel. Hey, here's this office building that's showing up. It's 10,000 square foot. And the math that I had done in underwriting it was that, okay, the state of New Jersey was gobbling up real estate, and leasing it out at like $20 a square foot. And it was just heading down Broad Street in Trenton. And they were just taking leases and hiring staff and scaling up under this guy named Governor Corzine, right? And he was, Democrat, acquiring, pushing the growth of the state. Big government is what we need in this country, whatever, right? And I'm not being political or whatever. That's just what was his philosophy, right? So they were scaling out. So I'm like, hey, this office building is in the path of progress. And I'm going to get the state or a derivative of the state to rent it from me for $20 a square foot, and we'll be off and running. So I bought it really cheap, like $50 a square foot. So do the math there. 3 years, you got all your money back. That's pretty good,
right.
So we put the building under contract. Okay. The financial crisis hits, while we're under contract. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I bought it. And then short-term lease, this school, Votech school, comes and leases it from me. They pay just at our expenses. They're a not-for-profit school. Say, this is all we can pay. They come and rent it from us. God bless. We're good. Got a year's worth of runway. Okay. They're just paying our expenses and our mortgage, and we're good to go. Then the financial crisis hits. And that guy, Chris Christie, that was supposed to keep expanding the state, and he was going to be the savior for New Jersey. No, Governor Corzine lost to Chris Christie. Excuse me. History right here. So Governor Corzine lost his reelection bid to Chris Christie. Now, you all know Chris Christie was not a big government expand. And so he goes and shrinks the government, cancels a lot of these leases, gets the guy, drops the New Jersey state government. Probably ought to have happened, but this path of progress is no longer there. And the financial crisis just hit. So I'm left with this enormous albatross around my neck, which was supposed to be, had I leased that building out, it would have probably made my wife and I $10,000 a month. And we would have been air quote out of the rat race. And so it was a play at the roulette table of real estate that I did not really have the chips to be playing,
How did you pivot? How did you get out of that?
Okay. So we had some runway, some cash from the school leasing it, and the bank was willing to play ball with us and help us out and stuff like that. So I converted the building into a small business center.
Right.
And so I paid some money to local contractors to carve it up and do little offices and private locks. And I moved my offices in there. And it was a win for a while, but the building, really broke even, and it became like this, like I'm spinning all these plates that are all resi deals, right? And I'm scaling up that. And then I've got this, it's like I'm spinning all these plates and I'm also trying to learn how to change car tires over here, because managing an office building is completely different than the repeatable processes that it takes to scale up a residential business. So now I'm working 2 jobs. I'm learning 2 different fields, and I'm marketing 2 different things, and I'm putting out I got 2 different kinds of fire extinguishers hanging on the wall for 2 different things I got to deal with. Right. So it by far stunted our growth,
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And it was good because of that office building. It had a big open seminar room in the back. And from that room is where I started launching meetups. I made it my hub for business and everything like that. So we scaled there. Now, could I have done that and just rent that out of ballroom hotel? Sure. Yeah. And left the hotel and washed my hands and not have to pick up the trash myself at the end of the RIA and stuff like that, Sure. Yeah. But I don't regret anything in life. But it's one of those things where looking back on it, I certainly believe that in the beginning, had I stayed focused on residential, fix and flips and rentals, I would have tripled down a lot faster.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Well, look, that's a great story to really highlight, kind of staying in your lane, focusing on kind of your one thing, what is going to be your investment strategy. And I haven't heard a story like that highlights it even as good as that does, because a massively different asset classes, right? And I'm glad it all worked out. I know we're going to talk about some of the coaching and some of the meetups and stuff that you did.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool that you're able to pivot that to be able to really get that going for you. But going back to the single family, so, I wanted to know originally, what were some of the other things that helped you be successful? I know you mentioned similar specifications, your buy box was similar, but the things that gave you the credibility to go out and have, folks starting to finance some of those deals. I know you were full-time and you were focused on it, but, where did you learn from? Who gave you that blueprint of making sure that you did successful deal after successful deal to build that track record?
Yeah. So I got very involved in the local RIA, and a lot of the gurus, this is pre-internet blowout and everything like that. So when I was just getting started, so I would go to local RIA and actually talk to somebody face to face, and other landlords. Sometimes I'd buy the guru courses. I got wise pretty quick that there's no end of the tunnel for the guru. There's always the next thing that they want you to do. It's always oh no, but 10 more thousand and I'll really whisper the secret of real estate in your ear and I'll really help you if you give me 20 grand. Well, you got the 20 grand. Well, now you got to go to my island getaway in the Bahamas and pay me 30 grand. And I'm really good at that. When we go to that, I'm really going to tell you the secret of real estate. But then you get there and it's but you're really going to learn from that guy, from this coaching guy, and it's it became this weird funnel, whatever. The most education I got was talking to active operators at RIA meetings, just going to the coffee machine, the snack bar there and bellying up to the guy next to me and said, "Hey man, what are you up to?" "Oh, I own 30 units, whatever." "Okay, great. Tell me more about that." "Oh, do you self-manage? How'd you get them?" Whatever. Stuff like this, you would get data you would get on a podcast, or to plug a little bit of my friends at Bigger Pockets, real estate education taught by people that are actually doing the business, because there's a lot of money that people are making these days, Brandon, in talking about real estate that actually don't do much real estate. And it's always been that way. That's not a new thing. It's always been those that talk about doing deals and make you believe that they actually do those deals, and those that actually are doing the deals and don't do much talking. They just get out and do, right?
Yeah.
So I learned from the people that were active, and I kind of took them on as mentors.
Yeah, that's a great gem, though. That's a great gem because, you just went out and I've heard when in doubt, get around the campfire, get around, the water cooler, if you will. If you're getting going, if you're listening to this and, saying, "Hey, I want to learn more. I want to be more successful," be where the other investors are, go to the meetups, be in a Bigger Pockets type, group or whatever, and learn from folks that are actually doing this business. Mentorship is great, but that's one of those things that help catapult you and your wife's business to success. And so now you got a successful track record and you say, "Hey, I want to start to raise, some capital." You got your first investor. Let's talk about the transition from that very first 50K to now start
where we're at,
raise more capital and writing a book on it with Bigger Pockets.
Well, the way that we did it, and I recommend this to everybody, it's cool to go and get around the campfire and talk to other real estate investors. And although like there's Zoom is cool and online's cool and whatnot, people actually do still get in their cars and go places and talk face to face with people, right?
So it's not 2020 no more, folks.
Yeah, back then, right? The masks are off, right? So Liz and I were able to propagate our brand, yes, on Bigger Pockets, but actually more so locally by owning that campfire, Like, hey, you want to come hang out with other real estate investors? At first, let's go to the local RIA and pitch them that, hey, you all need a Mercer County subgroup. Mercer County is where Trenton is in New Jersey, right? Y'all need a Mercer County subgroup. And they didn't have one. And so we got the grant for the permission from them to run a local subgroup. And that was Liz and I's first foray. And then I'm doing that other real estate investor a favor by putting them in front of the group that maybe they want to invest with him or her. Maybe they want to do a deal with him or her or whatever. So I'd bring them in and I don't make them come in early so I could take them out to lunch, take them out to dinner, or stay later so I could take you out for a cocktail, whatever. So we would own the campfire and then I own the conversation around the campfire. And as Liz and I started to get a little more successful and a few more deals under our belt, people started coming to us being like, hey, how you doing? What you doing? And then before you knew it, I was kind of the one in front of the room and I got to like build my muscles in what it's like to be in front of the room and public speaking and get your point across clearly to people and all that jazz, right? So I recommend to your audience, like go on Meetup, start a meetup. And if there already is a meetup in your local area, go to that meetup and ask them if they need help. Like, you need help running the front desk. You need help, like go and be their Gunga Din and help them do stuff around their campfire. Totally fine. Then though, eventually, to answer your question, we started raising money from because, you get 30 people in the room. 2 of them are actually really want to invest passively and they came to the room to meet people they can invest with. The other 30 are people that are active, that are trying to learn the ropes, which is cool. But there's a few passives in the room. And if you're in front of the room, you're getting the attention, you're getting the street cred, you're getting the spotlight for at least a minute. And if you come off like you got your what together and you actually do, then you can maybe get the attention and maybe even the money of those people. So that's how we slowly started to scale. But I didn't do $50K from the guy she went to college with and then $10 million raises for an apartment building. It was like $50K and then 100 and then 300 and then 500 and then like 750 and then $1 million, right? So we slowly scaled into the larger and larger deals. And this was way, way, way before Bigger Pockets we'd ever heard of Bigger Pockets.
Right. Love it. Love it. And so, that's great because giving folks a sense of like being that local authority, being the authority in your market, it goes a long way, folks. And there's so much good that can come from that, or just being part of the local communities meetups, even if you're not the authority in the beginning, just getting out there, being active and offering to help. I love that as well. But I'm sure that you have some more gems in your book, Raising Private Capital with Bigger Pockets. Just another, any quick tip, if you could just kind of give us something from that you suggest folks do to kind of start that process.
Well, I'll bust a myth, right? Somebody listening to this podcast right now is telling themselves, that sure is great, Matt, but I'll bet that you raised all your money hanging out around the country club. And, you probably were born with a silver spoon in your mouth and you kind of know lots of millionaires and that's how you got the money. You went and talked the dozens of millionaires that and got to invest their millions into your business. And that's how you got where you're at, right? No. And then fast forwarding and saying, well, I was not born with $1 million friends and silver spoon or whatever. Well, guess what? Neither was I. Okay. And the myth is that people don't know people with money. Like, oh, all my friends are broke. Okay. If that's really, 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 really true, guess what? You become who you surround yourself with. So get new friends, okay? But that's likely not true. You just don't know how to look for money. And I can teach you that in my book, Raising Private Capital. So the places to look for money are not always, most people that have lots of money don't run around flaunting it, okay? And they likely don't live in a 10,000 square foot house and drive a Lamborghini. People that live in 10,000 square foot houses and drive Lamborghinis are likely broke at another level, okay? They're just broke spending $30,000 a month versus $3,000 a month. Okay. The really, really wealthy
more, that's how they make their money, right?
Yeah.
Especially these days, right? Social media, influencers and stuff. Some people make their money by showing you what they make. Some are better at it than others, but yeah. It's a thing.
I saw a video one time where like a guy, I know we're digressing a little bit, but the guy's driving around a Lamborghini talking about real estate, whatever. And the comments absolutely slammed this guy because it was very clear he rented the Lamborghini. Okay. It was not his Lamborghini. It was very clear. Because first of all, it was automatic. And if you're going to go buy a Lamborghini, don't be a numbnuts and buy automatic Lamborghini. Learn how to drive stick. If you're going to get a Cougar like that, you know, you can't put a Cougar in a cage and get an automatic Lamborghini. But it was just funny because people were just completely busting this guy's bubble. And they're like, oh, that didn't work out for you very well today. You know? Yeah. So yeah, back to the point. My book talks a lot about how to find money in your network. And I'll just give you a tip here for you and your audience. Money hides out in 3 places. Number one, in plain sight and just plain cold hard cash. And there are tips that people with cold hard cash leave. You know, the second place that money hides in plain sight is in real estate. 30%, Brandon, 30% of America owns their primary residence free and clear. Almost all baby boomers do, except for the baby boomers that refied their way up through the financial buildup and then the crash. Those that got crushed in the financial crash probably lost their house. But those that didn't, baby boomers that did not lose their house during the financial crash likely own that home free and clear. That free and clear home could easily become a vehicle for investing with you, right? Nice. And the third place that money hides out, and this is like this so obvious one, but people don't think about to look at this one, is a retirement account, IRA, not a 401k, but an IRA account. And so if you learn how to find the clues for those 3 things in your network, you will find that I don't want to say everyone, right? But just about everyone has millions of dollars sitting in their cell phone and they don't even realize it, that they could unlock by learning to talk the script, learning to have good conversations with these folks about, hey, listen, guess so you know, Wall Street's phenomenal for your retirement account, but try something else too. I'm not saying like take all your money out of Wall Street, give it to me. But you can take some of your money out of Wall Street and diversify yourself. And diversification in investing is not buying Apple and Google stock. That's not diversification. Right. Diversification is taking money and spreading it out into different trading platforms and in other things. So yeah, I believe anybody could do this.
For sure. And having that conversation and being able to educate, like super important. Just to give one tip of one of those, just so I kind of know what you mean by
yeah. Well, this is probably the juiciest one and the one that is so obvious, but you don't realize it. And the one that I probably is the most prevalent in our network, and that's IRAs. And I'll give you one more fact. 4%, Brandon, 4% of IRAs in this country are invested in anything else except for Wall Street. 96% of IRA money is in Wall Street. And there is 10 trillion with a T dollars in IRA accounts in the United States. So there's so much money that could get relocated to other things. So here's the tip. Find somebody in your network, right? That used to, where it's so obvious, but it's just people like, oh yeah, I get it. That used to work at company A. And company A could be any company. And they now work at company B. And the only exception to that rule is if they're a public servant, and we need lots of public service in our country. But if they are a firefighter, teacher, working for the direct government, they maybe just have a pension and maybe didn't get a 401k program. Some states have 401ks, some states don't. If all they got was a pension working at that job, then they maybe don't have a retirement account that could get relocated to you. But if they worked for whatever, Starbucks has a retirement program. So if they were a barista at Starbucks for 5 years, then likely that retirement account they had at Starbucks, if they're working at Starbucks and now work at Dunkin' Donuts, right there, the 401k they had working wherever they used to work can now get rolled over into an IRA account and can get rolled over to a self-directed IRA and can get put into your business.
I love it. If they're working for the money that is at the Dunkin' Donuts right now, if they're working there, can you roll some of your current employer's 401k into IRA or just where you used to work?
You can. I don't recommend this. You can do what I'm about to describe, but I don't recommend it. You can take out a loan on your 401k. You can lend it to yourself and then take that and put it into a project. Yeah, I don't know if you can put it in your own project or not. I mean, I talk to people about this besides Matt and Brandon here, but I don't recommend it because you got to pay it back. And there are seasoning rules on how long it's got to be out of it. If it's out of the account for too long, it ends up becoming withdrawal. You got to pay tax on it and all that jazz. So better bet is to take the IRA from the company you used to work for and put that to work in something.
Well, look, guys, if you're investing right now and you're wanting to scale, ready to scale, I mean, I think learning this way of educating, communicating exactly like how people in your network currently can put their money to work in your deals and help you scale, right? And get a better return than the stock market. Like learning that conversation piece and how to educate is super important, super essential. And it just makes so much sense, folks. So I know it's going to be all in the book and we're going to talk about that. But look, I can't let you go without putting you through the lightning round. Are you ready for that, Matt?
Bring it. Bring the lightning.
Do it. There you go. I got a series of rapid fire questions. You don't know the question. I don't know your answer. So just say the very first thing that comes to your mind. What's one book that's been instrumental to your growth as a real estate investor?
There's a lot. Yeah. Okay. It's oldie but good. I'm not going to say Rich Dad Poor. I'm not going to say Rich Dad Poor Dad because probably a lot of you are guessing that. And it did. And it did, but I'll give you a different answer. Yet another Kiyosaki book, which is Cash Flow Quadrant. And that got me to think about where I was at and had to own that I'm an E at the time and I want to be an S. And I eventually want to transition to a B business owner, which I am now as a syndicator. And I'm also an investor too. I do some passive investing on my own as well. So the ESBI quadrant really allowed me to think about what I do professionally and what the actions I put forth to put my money to work. So Cash Flow Quadrant.
Got it. And guys, while you're at it, Raising Private Capital by Matt Faircloth with Bigger Pockets is another great book. And that kind of goes without saying. But if you could have drinks or coffee with any one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh boy. There's a lot. Benjamin Franklin, I like that Benjamin Franklin was like an all around utility man, like a little bit of everything, but and was good at it. And so I'd like to get his philosophy in there. Hey, any of our founding fathers, I would do that with, just to like talk about what the world's doing now and what they think. Like, did they realize this American experiment that they were doing was going to turn into what it did today? On a spiritual side, so many spiritual leaders, including Jesus, I have to bring that up. But I mean, not to like get in a pulpit about it or whatever, but I'm a Christian. I'd love to hear what he thinks of where the world is today, all that, and what he thinks of some things that people say in his name, like, oh yeah, well, Jesus would do it this way. Well, what do you really? I don't know. Let's find out.
Great examples. Great examples. What's the best advice that you would give to someone looking to do their very first multifamily deal?
Depends on how big, but I would say get clear on market and business plan and those kinds of things first. The worst thing you can do if you want to start investing in bigger deals or even scale up your game is to get out there and start making offers and just hope that you're going to figure it out, right? I would get very clear on what you want to do and where you want to do it, and then drill in and become an expert on that market and that asset class in those things. And then you might end up getting first look at deals that are about to come to the market. You might find a seller looking to sell, without a broker, or you might, because you're focused, know a good deal from a bad deal where somebody that's more casting a bigger net is not going to recognize that.
Good stuff. Love that. Love that. If you could talk about one mistake on a deal or a business in general that you could do a do-over for, which one would it be?
Probably have to be that office building, Brandon, that I talked about earlier. What I like.
It worked out though.
I did. And that the office building helped me a lot. Maybe I would have brought in a strategic partner with it, but I probably would have in general asked for more help when I was outside of my swim lane more frequently. Because I think of like fix and flips. I did one fix and flip, brand. It went so south, I had to tear it up. I had to tear the building down and build a new house on it. Had I partnered with a more seasoned real estate investor to come in and help me on the deal and maybe be a JV partner and me split part of the profits with them, I think would have done a lot better.
Love it. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
What's the financial goal that you have set for your team for this calendar year?
New asset classes. We're very successful in multifamily, but multifamily's gotten the big multifamily stuff that we do. Cap rates haven't quite adjusted yet. And so we're waiting on cap rates to adjust to where the deals make sense again. And so we're looking at new asset classes, including doing a debt fund. So we're going to start lending money out through hard money lending vehicles and that. So I think those are some things I'm really excited about.
Love it. Do you have a number to, how many new asset classes, how many projects, units?
I look to put $5 million to work this year.
Love it. Love it.
In hard money. If I could do a hard money deal and find an apartment building deal that makes sense, I would do a standing backflip right now.
I love it. Then you'd really be Captain America.
You could do it.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't think so. If you woke up tomorrow with $500 million deposited into your account overnight, what's the first thing you would purchase with that newfound money?
No, we're getting past all the pragmatic stuff, like the fun. Yeah.
All the fun stuff. It's fun item.
Okay, cool. I probably would get out there and do like, take my family on vacation, like an epic, like couple month long, like go see the world, like literally start in Pennsylvania and head west and like keep going until we come back from the east side, like literally just see the world and whatnot. I'm not a huge toy guy because I've always wanted an EV. I drive a Jeep Wrangler. So I probably would pick up like some EV toys and stuff like that. I got one thing. I just don't have the garage big enough for it. So I'd build a bigger garage and I would pick up this thing called a Vanderwall. You ever look at these things? It's like a $40,000 car. It's kind of a car, but it's like a car and a motorcycle combined. It looks like one of these old things that James Bond used to drive. It's like a little, like a boxy, like long and slender, like a little cigar car kind of thing. Okay. I think it's got 2 wheels in the front, 1 wheel in the back. One of my tenants, he ran a barber shop and he was also into flipping cars, and he bought himself a Vanderwall. And he let me go for a ride in it with him. And I'm like, man, this is the coolest thing ever. It's completely impractical. It's always got the roof off. You can't drive it in the rain or in bad weather. And it's like great if you live in San Diego, but anywhere else, terrible to own. But I would want something completely impractical, but fun like that.
That was a great answer. Absolutely great answer. Last one. What is the best advice that you would give to the person looking to scale their business right now?
More than ever, as the market changes and as new opportunities start to come on, you cannot chase shiny nickels. The successful people are going to be ones that stay focused. It's not that self-storage is going to be the new asset class that's going to boom and take off, and you're not going to make millions unless you invest in self-storage. Same thing's true for multifamily fix and flips, wholesale, sub 2, whatever it is you're going to do, just drill into that, because opportunities, I don't think the market's going to crash, but I think that more and more opportunities are going to come up, and more real estate investors are out there with capital looking to get into something. And so those opportunities are going to get gobbled up by people that are focused. If you're going to chase shiny nickels, you're going to be second to the line behind the person that's focused on all these opportunities. You're not going to get anything if you don't stay focused. And as the real estate market changes over the next year or two. So stay focused on geography. Like, don't be invested in 9 cities. Invest in one city, become an expert on that one place and in one asset class in that market.
Really, really, really good, Jim. Good, Jim. Even for myself, because there's some great opportunities out there, and there always are. But, when you have something that works, unless you're absolutely crushing it in your heart of hearts, right? Don't go and move on until you get to the point where you're absolutely crushing it and you can have the bandwidth to one. This has been great, Matt. And we talked about so much here about, your journey, specifically, how to stay focused in your niche, and then also how to, build that brand authority in your local market. Raising capital. You gave us some great tips on that. And for the folks that want to continue following your journey and also, check out the book or anything else that you have, where would you want them to go and check you out?
Just website. Everything's there on our website, derosagroup.com. You can learn from us. You can invest with us. You can follow us. You can join our newsletter, everything at DeRosa, DEROSA group, GROUP, derosagroup.com.
Love it. And then social, do you also have?
You can follow me on IG at the Matt Faircloth. I post out some, quickie education reels a couple times a week, just trying to teach the kind of thing. So
good stuff. Guys, well, while you're at it, head over to sendmoreoffers.com. There's nothing for sale there, but just a bunch of great information from the speakers, show notes. You can connect with me. If you have a deal in the Atlanta area, definitely reach out. Would love to connect you with my network and help you get that across the finish line at sendmoreoffers.com. Matt, this has been great. I really appreciate everything, and, much success to you and your wife, and continue to go out there and crush it.
You too, Brandon. Nice to meet you. Thank you, brother.
You as well. Thank you. And guys, as always, send more offers, do more deals. Till next time. Peace.
That's all for this episode of the Send More Offers Real Estate Show with Brandon Barnes. But we know you're craving more knowledge to get yourself ready for that next deal. To schedule a call with Brandon to learn more about how to do deals consistently without seller appointments in a repeatable way, Be sure to visit us at sendmoreoffers.com and be sure to tune in for the next episode of the Send More Offers Real Estate Show.